And welcome to episode 2 of Somewhere in Hollywood, the podcast/cinema game show that expands the world of Hollywood. I'm your host, Ken Perry. How this works is that our guest will choose a card from the director's deck. Their card will contain the name of a movie, actor or actress, director, or even genre related to some of Hollywood's hottest stars, films, or properties, from both the past and the present. I, along with our guest, will hold an impromptu 10-minute conversation regarding the subject. Today's guest is my Exit Music for a Film co-host and one of my oldest friends, Phil Bittner.
Hey, how the fuck
Phil,
you doing?
what's up?
What's up?
What's up?
Hey, how the fuck
Are you
doing?
ready to do this?
Yeah.
All right, Phil, where are we traveling today? Pick a card from the director's deck, please.
All right. It's too good to be true. Sci-fi and fantasy.
Sci-fi and fantasy, episode 2. We get our first genre pick. All right, that's a great pick for yourself. I know you're a huge fan of the sci-fi fantasy genre. Phil, when I bring up sci-fi/fantasy, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Oh, it's gotta be They Live.
They Live. All right. By the way, hold on. And the clock has started. All right. So, Phil, you're saying out of this whole genre, when I bring it up, you say They Live is the first thing that comes to mind.
It's
Is
just
this
my
your favorite
movie.
sci-fi?
Yeah.
It's your favorite movie. All right, and you're aware that I have yet to see They Live, or yes, I've not seen it.
Yep.
To
Pisses me
talk
off
about
every
They
day.
Live. That's right. I'll get there. I'm getting there.
They Live, it's kind of one of those movies that just, it's become more relevant as time has gone on in a lot of ways. I mean, sadly, we live in a time where a lot of dystopian things tend to feel more relevant than ever. But,
Say that.
basically, Rowdy Roddy Piper plays a character, Nada. And Rowdy Roddy Piper, gotta love it. Yeah, he's a drifter.
He was in that.
He's a drifter. He wanders into town. He picks up at a work site, and he goes to basically stay at like a little drifter colony. Yeah, from there, the people next door, there's this abandoned church, and there keeps being this thing going on with the TV that gives him a headache. Eventually, it comes through, and it's a broadcast warning people about, you know, kind of the conspiracy talk, what they are up to. And eventually he kind of realizes that there's some... I forget exactly how it goes down. He realizes there's something up with this church. He breaks in. He finds a bunch of sunglasses, and one of them he puts them on, and it's kind of this frequency that he can see through the Matrix or whatever. When he looks at advertising, he sees things that say, like, watch TV, consume, and it's this alien race.
She's the true message.
Yeah. And it's this alien race, and he can tell which people are them, and that's the most iconic thing from it, is the look of the aliens. And eventually he goes on to what basically is like a shooting spree, where he's shooting them, but since everyone else can't see them, to the outside eye, it would just look like a guy going on a shooting spree. That's why, as much as they've talked about remaking this movie, I think that in a lot of ways it could be a little bit irresponsible as far as potential social impact.
Right.
But, yeah, they're monitored by drones, which was not really something that people really, I think, thought would be as realistic as it's come to be.
Right.
It's just a really good movie. It's based on a movie called... It's 8 in the morning, 7 in the morning. I forget the exact time. Something in the morning. It's just a short story. Very similar. They obviously took a lot of liberties with it because you can listen to the entire story on YouTube in like a 10-minute video. But yeah,
Okay.
it's just a great movie, and obviously directed by John Carpenter. Who
I was just gonna ask. I know he did the music. I just recently bought a John Carpenter anthology on vinyl, and I love the They Live track, man. The theme's awesome.
Oh, then you'll love this movie because half the movie is just that bass line repeating on in the background.
I'm gonna learn that bass line. All right, yeah. You've told me too many times. I will watch They Live. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, you have to. It's just so good. It's so entertaining.
How do the aliens look in this? Bad, good? How are how's the makeup and graphics and everything?
Very similar to the thing every classroom had, where you just see the muscular structure of the face.
Okay.
Um,
What year is this? Is this 80s or like?
I want to say 89.
Oh wow.
Let me check here.
I wasn't sure if it was late 70s, early 80s, or mid 80s or whatever.
1988.
Okay.
Yeah. I just love this movie so much, and like I said, it's also I start to see a lot more references to it nowadays. Also just with shirt designs and stuff.
Okay. For like the cover art and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting. All right. They Live is the first thing that comes to mind when Phil thinks of sci-fi fantasy. Now, when I think of the genre, I think obviously the first property comes to mind for me is Star Wars.
Yeah. Star Wars was that first fandom that I really got into.
Absolutely.
Yeah, They Live was just like I saw it like it was on TNT or something when my dad was flipping through channels one day and I liked it. And Star Wars was just I just showed you before we were recording. I have the box set of the VHSs that everyone our age had, the remasters with the Darth Vader box. I used to watch these movies pretty much every day.
I can think of no better time to tell this story on, I've had a film podcast for quite some time now. My father, our guest on the inaugural episode of this podcast,
Stumbles,
calls me in one day from playing outside. Seemed like there was something very important he wanted to discuss me, and he handed me that same VHS box set that you just pulled out, along with a Darth Vader head full of action figures. Sat me down as if it was a rite of passage and put on Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope.
That's awesome.
From that point, no turning back. He made this seem like it was truly like a rite of passage. The man loves Star Wars, and he passed that along to me. It's the Holy Trilogy, man. It's those two are two of my favorite movies of all time. Return of the Jedi is also fantastic. Just, I mean, you get lost in that world as a child, and still to this day, it's, one of my favorite film properties of all time. Empire Strikes Back is probably in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. And I'm just so happy that, he did that for me, man. He really turned me into like a movie lover, and that was a big part of that. And I'll never forget that, that day, him doing that and making such a big deal out of Star Wars for me. Even when my sister was having her first kids, he asked me, and I don't think he was joking that much. He said, "Ken, what am I going to do? Am I going to show them the originals first, or these prequels now? I just don't know what to do." And he wasn't fully kidding, man. He wasn't. He's like, "I don't want to confuse them. I don't know." But yeah, I just gained a true love for Star Wars from my father directly, and I can't thank him for enough for that. And that's the first thing that comes up when I think of science fiction.
My first introduction to Star Wars was actually through like mild bullying. When we first moved to Iowa, my stepdad was on a 2-year job here building this mill that he ended up working at. I work as the janitor in the locker room of that place now. Uh, that my parents now live in Alabama because they transferred to the same company has a mill out there. But we had these neighbors at this house we rented for 2 years in Bettendorf, Nathan and Nicole. I lived there through, I didn't go to preschool, but what would have been my preschool year and kindergarten. And the kids next door, Nathan and Nicole, Nathan was a year older than me. So he was in kindergarten at the time, and he got this new Lego set. And me and my little sister hung out with those two all the time. It was like the perfect, my sister's 3 years younger than me. Nicole was her age, and we just pretty much lived at each other's houses. And we were over there, and he had this Lego set. I was 5, he was 6, and the Lego set was 6 and up. And this kid was being an asshole to me, saying I can't play with the Legos. And we're in his living room, and his dad was watching Star Wars. And it was that, that opening scene where Darth Vader and all the stormtroopers come through the corridor. And it went from me being upset that I couldn't play with the Legos to me just wanting to stay in the living room and watch this movie with his dad. And that's the first time I saw Star Wars.
It's crazy how much
loved it ever since.
Stories, about the first time seeing Star Wars and just how important of a property it is, man. It's one of the first properties to come to mind when I think of these, Think of Hollywood in general, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, I just love Star Wars. Yeah.
Even now to this day, I mean, we're in our 30s now, and The Mandalorian just dropped, and I'm as into it as ever.
Yeah, I get so excited every Friday during the seasons for The Mandalorian to come out. It's become it's funny because my dog Booty, a little dog, when she was little, me and my ex-girlfriend who got her, we just had a little Yoda shirt that said, "Judge me by my size, do ya?" And I would refer to her as like little Yoda baby and stuff like that. So then for them to have a character that for the better part of his run on the show was known as Baby Yoda was just hilarious. And I actually, you'll be able to see it. My mom sent me this little...
Is Baby Yoda.
Yeah, Grogu as he's come to be named now. Grogu.
Grogu.
Yeah, and that's ever since my mom sent me this in the mail. That's every Friday night I get home. When I first got it, because my dog is very clingy, I tested to see if it would happen, and yes, she will get jealous over a stuffed animal. But every Friday I put Grogu on the coffee table, and we turn all the lights off and sit down and watch the new episode of The Mandalorian. So yeah, it's to this day just a huge franchise for me. I've seen every movie in theaters, including eating a brownie and going to see Rise of Skywalker was the last one. I had to go see that one by myself, which nice. I don't go to a lot of movies by myself, but Miranda was dragging her feet and I had to see it.
Yeah, I would have did the same thing. If it sat there for, like a week and no one wanted to go, things are different now, but I'm not one to usually go see something alone, but something like that, yeah, I'll see ya. Sorry. It's not like you're talking to anyone anyways. You're sitting in a dark room just watching a movie. Yeah, I'd absolutely be in line to see Star Wars alone if no one else was down to go. Yeah, like you said, just one of the most important franchises, and it's going to be a lifelong thing, it seems like, for us.
We're going to keep getting it whether we want it or not
at
this
Disney
point, now that Disney has it.
Disney's going to exploit the shit out of Star Wars, and I don't think that's the worst thing. Just leave the major story alone, leave it what it was, and just start fresh, which seems like to be what they're going to do. Mandalorian's fantastic. They're doing the Book of Boba Fett. I was super late to get to the second season of The Mandalorian, but discovering that Boba Fett was alive, my favorite character.
Yeah.
I haven't been into Star Wars like that. Like once I discovered that, I haven't been into Star Wars like that since I was like 10 years old.
The Mandalorian really did spark a big Star Wars renaissance for me. That and the game Jedi Fallen Order came out. That was awesome.
Yeah, I started replaying the Bounty Hunter game back on like PS2. I'm embarrassed to say I now have a little Boba Fett figure on my record box.
Well, that's another thing with Star Wars, man. The toys, like,
Yeah,
that was the carrot on a stick for me for everything when I was a kid. That my mom
Absolutely.
incentivized me with. I got to the point like I had so many of the toys that I started getting multiple stormtroopers, so I could have like a squad of them.
like a squadron. Yeah.
Yeah.
Toys were huge for me. Like I said, if you caught it, when Stumbles introduced the box set, he accompanied that with the big Darth Vader thing full of action figures. I mean,
Yeah, everyone had either that or the Millennium Falcon that opened up and had like the action figures clipped in.
he thought of this. He planned this out. It's crazy, man. It shows how important this. It shows how important this is. This property. I had the Millennium Falcon. Man, they bought me the my prized possession as a child was the Jabba's Palace set, which I had that. I was obsessed with Return of the Jedi, the whole Jabba's Palace thing, when I was a little kid. I guess because of all the Muppets and monsters and whatnot. So I had that. I would put the movie on and just play the movie out with the characters as I did. I can't imagine how annoyed my parents were just watching the first half of Return of the Jedi over and over.
Yeah.
Got it. I got in trouble and got Jabba's Palace taken away from me after I didn't want to go to kindergarten a few times. So that was a punishment. Got that taken away. And also to round this out and bring this full circle, my dad's retired now and has a little bit too much time on his hands. He still has the Jabba's Palace set and just went on eBay and found a new piece for that. The little guy that accompanies Jabba,
Salacious Crumb.
Yeah, Salacious Crumb. He bought a new Salacious Crumb on eBay in the last year. Like, what the fuck?
Wow, just
So yeah,
based on my dad and how like their whole friend group and how much they all have in common, I'm really surprised just to hear that Stumbles uses eBay.
yeah, right, absolutely. That was news to me too, and I'm glad he's using it for such great uses as to buy a new Salacious Crumb figure to go along with Jabba's Palace. I hope I come home soon and it's just all set up in the corner like it used to be when I was 7 years old.
I mean, Star Wars is probably largely responsible for the fact that my little room that I have where I do recording is full of toys. Like, most of my figures are hockey ones, but if you could see on the the little thing above the doorway behind me, it's all Funko Pops, Ninja Turtles. I actually don't have, well, other than I guess I have the Grogu doll as well as a Chia Pet. But I largely use eBay for old, like, I think my last eBay thing was a Martin Straka bobblehead. Favorite underrated penguin.
Here you go. And I'm looking behind me at a framed Boba Fett picture that I got for free. So, yeah, I don't think you get too far without finding some sort of, Star Wars type content.
Well, yeah, the Boba
yeah,
Fett with the Slave One was the holy grail of toys when I was a kid.
Oh, my God. Right.
I had to
wish
read
still had
so
all
many
that shit.
books in a month for whatever, like for reading class where you had to read a certain amount of books a month. And that was what my mom would do, is however many I read, a certain number would be the Star Wars one, or to get a Star Wars toy. And one month I did so much reading to get Boba Fett and the Slave One.
Sure, it was worth it.
I regret
I wish
nothing. The only thing I regret is that I don't still have it.
I wish I could still get Star Wars toys for reading books. Yeah, and like I said, I I wish I had all my stuff still. I had to bring it back over from my dad's house. But like I just said on our last podcast, I probably would. The wedding probably wouldn't be going through if I show up at the apartment with a bunch of Boba Fett merchandise. But I'm sure, like, I'm excited to, show my future kids Star Wars, and I'm sure you are as well. It's a really special thing, man. It's a really special part of our lives that expands generations.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, I definitely need to stick with the girlfriend I have because, like I said, largely probably responsible for the fact that I still decorate rooms with toys, which is why my room that I get to decorate is the room with French doors with blinds on them where it can be shut off from the rest of the house. And it's probably largely responsible for making me very unfuckable.
Unfuckable, yes. And that's a perfect way to end that's a perfect word to end our episode on science fiction / fantasy. For Somewhere in Hollywood, I'm Ken Perry. Phil, thanks, man. This was a pleasure, and this was like the perfect episode to have you on for, man.
Yeah.
Any last words to share with us on your love for sci-fi fantasy before we close out?
Give us a sequel to Dredd.
Okay. And a lot of other sci-fi titles that I could probably think of. Keep the sci-fi coming, Hollywood. It's your bread and butter, and it's what we all continually want, and will never go out of style. All right, guys. Thank you. This has been Somewhere in Hollywood. Until next time.